It's Monday, it's 8 o'clock, it's the Monday assessment.
Your people gather round your town when things are on the up or things are falling down. Celebrate the hard times, stay passionate through the lows, find strength in the chaos, no matter which way it goes. It's not easy being blue. Heartbreak comes in many ways, the hardest times, the darkest days, but all these things get washed away with us, with us. The highs might not come every day, but memories do, and memories stay. Enjoy that moment anyway with us, with us, with us. It's not easy being blue. It's not easy being blue.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday assessment with the view from the Medway Fancast, sponsored by Snodhurst Used Cars Sales and Service Station and Wicked Creative, and in partnership with the Gillingham FC Supporters Club, Sports Social Podcast Network, and Her Game Too. And unfortunately, like London buses, one bought two, as the Gills suffered their second defeat away at Milton Keynes, and we will dissect, which was a very, very poor performance by the Gills, but finished on a positive as we pulled 2 goals back. We, as a panel, will dissect that for you this evening. This evening we have James and Tom from ME7, and we have Harry from Fourth Tier Fever. How are we doing, boys?
Yeah, very good, thanks.
Excellent. We will get on with the show, as always, starting with the Views news. So Gareth had his op. Dobbo spoke afterwards saying that it went well. So I'll start with you, James. Is it an overreaction or a concern to think that Gareth not being on the touchline had anything to do with the performance on Saturday?
I don't think it's an overreaction, because I think anyone can see that Gareth's sort of antics, should we say, on the sideline is helps, I think, drive the team forward. You see it that sometimes where he's sort of heading the ball in, or he's charging down tackles that happens by him and things like that, and it gets the players going. So I think, of course, it would have affected us, but at the same time, Dobbo did say that Gareth was a part of the pre-match preparation. He was part of it on Tuesday. So therefore, the team that got picked, I would probably assume Gareth had full knowledge of that team going out to start off with, which I'm sure we'll come on to later, which I think the management actually got wrong. But yeah, I think, I think, of course, I don't think it plays a part in the defeat, but I think that we just miss it. I think that's what it is.
And Harry, how important is it that the club make sure that Gareth doesn't force his way back sooner than he should, if results don't go the way we want them to, and obviously that he doesn't want to, that obviously he gives himself enough time to recover?
Well, yeah, he's going to be tempted, isn't he? You know, after that defeat at the weekend, he's going to be wanting to come back. But you're right, he needs to rest, he needs to recover, because the worst thing from our point of view is he comes back too early, gets involved too early, and then something worse happens, and then he's out for a longer period of time. We really don't want that. I'm confident in the team that they're going to be able to bounce back this weekend, hopefully, from that. I'm not sure if the result would have been different if Gareth was there on Saturday. I just think, and we'll talk about it later, but a lot of things went against us and we really made a mess of it. We'll have to see, but yeah, we want Gareth back, but not too soon.
And lastly, with you, Tom, obviously, I think originally it was stated to be, I think he said 4 games. I don't know if 4 games means 4 weeks and 4 Saturdays, or whether the 4 games includes tomorrow night. But did you notice anything from the performance that you could see where Dobbo had tried to put his touch on anything? Or do you think, as Harry said, that probably the same result would have happened whether Gareth was there or not?
Yeah, I agree with what both guys have said, really. I think, in terms of it would very much have been Gareth's team that he's chosen, and potentially he will choose or have a big input in the rest of the teams as well while he's out. I do think on the pitch, obviously, once they cross the white line, obviously, the managers can't always impact, especially, in the first 10 minutes, what's been happening recently. So I don't think it would have been a huge difference. Obviously, Gareth's character on the sideline speaks for itself, and we all see that as fans too. We see how invested he is and how emotional he is with it. But I don't think it would have been a huge difference. Obviously, a lot of the errors that we made were individual errors, and it wasn't really down to a team performance as such. So I wouldn't read too much into it. The first bit you mentioned about game time, I reckon that he probably would have meant weeks, because obviously games come thick and fast. So again, with the heart, you can't rush it. You can't come back too soon, especially with the pressure of this game and what it brings to you. So he'll know full well he needs to balance out. He wants to come back, obviously get back involved, because he needs to be very, very careful with that as well. So let's not rush him back, but at least he's past the first hurdle now.
Perfect. And talking of rushing back, next step is the injury list. I'll come to you, Harry, on this one. I've said this on previous shows in the past. I was always a fan back in the day. I don't like to talk back in the day because it makes me sound old, but you used to, in the programme and on the website, you used to get updated a lot on players being injured, how long they were going to be off for, what it was. But obviously, the way that football works now, and managers don't want the other team knowing who's available and who's not. What are your thoughts when come a Saturday, all of a sudden 4 players are completely missing that were playing the week before, and as Gills fans, didn't know anything about it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it came as a bit of a shock, didn't it, when the team news came out? They're very key players. We had a bit of a feeling about Dak when he came off the week before, but the other guys, no news coming out about them. And the team, I was worried when I saw the team sheet come out. It's a bit of a worry at the moment. We obviously don't know the severity of any of the injuries. We're awaiting Little and seeing when he's fit. But the others, we just don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. But that team that got put out, I'm not too sure. People sort of playing in makeshift positions, quite defensive in the middle of the pitch, and it didn't work. It clearly didn't work in that first half, and it was only when the changes really came on that we saw any sort of impact from the team.
And Tom, kind of the same to you. At this level, does it really matter if an opposition manager knows that a couple of players aren't available, even if they're squad players, or am I overthinking it, wanting to know that a player's out and how long they're out for? Because if you take Connor Masterson, for example, we got told it was a calf. We got told it was not serious. He's still walking around in a boot. But there's, again, no update on how long that's going to be.
I think as fans, we would like to know, and obviously with your first point there about kind of, other teams being aware of it, I don't see the big... It's not as if, got our Haaland on the pitch that's a make or break character. We've got, it's not the same severity, but I do think, and we saw it a lot with Mark Bonner at the start of last season, that, we would have a different starting 11 from one week to the next because of injuries. And we're as fans going, right, are we playing a 4-3-3? Are we playing a 5? Or what are we doing? How is it lining up? And if us fans are looking at it, guessing, going, right, well, how are we going to line up? It kind of, takes a bit of gloss off it. And I think we've got enough players now in our squad to be able to have, more often than not, if a player comes out injured, somebody comes in to take his place in that system. So we should have consistency in that respect, not have to change systems to adapt to sort of, bring players in, but we should have the players already tailor-made to come in to replace somebody else. So if Johnny Smith comes out, for example, we then seemingly changed the system to reflect the fact that he's missing, and we've gone to a back five, and it's kind of worked against us. So I would obviously, you know, three or four players being missing for one reason or another, as Harry said, that was kind of already a foregone conclusion. But with the others missing, it would be nice to have just the ability to just for those players to drop into that position and go, right, I'm going to carry on, you know, with the system that's worked for the last sort of few months. And ultimately, as we will go on to say, that changing system might have impacted the way we played, especially in the first half. So it's a bit concerning. Not a huge deal, but with injuries, you know, coming relatively thick and fast, it's also, we'd like to know when they're back so we can bring those players back into the squad.
And James, we don't normally talk about games in the future, but obviously the Gills have got a game tomorrow night. And how much does this injury list hamper what they plan to do with the squad tomorrow? Or do you think it makes no relevance? They would have picked the kids like they did last time. And obviously they do have to select a certain amount of players that started on Saturday in this game. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it does hamper it, because ultimately you want to sort of bed players in that might not, like, so for example, I highly doubt if Amani Little, Johnny Smith, Dak, Masterson, Raw Fit and things like that, Shadows, for example, wouldn't have started Saturday. It wouldn't have happened. And Tom makes a really good point, is that it sort of baffles me that why we just didn't go like for like on Saturday, and we just brought Shad, where he's barely kicked a football for us in the last couple of months, and he just went straight into the starting lineup, and that baffled me a lot. I'm not sure what our thinking was behind it. Aaron Rowe, we know with Aaron, he's not a wing back, so I'm not sure why we even had that thought process. But in terms of tomorrow night, do we now, because obviously Josh Andrews is now suspended because he's clocked up the 5 bookings, so surely there's a case for Seb Palmer-Horden to come into the team on Saturday to start, which I think regardless he should anyway. But that would have been an opportunity for him to start. Lenny Serino, he made such a big impact on Saturday in the second half. Do you risk him tomorrow night, or do you wait and start him on Saturday? It's sort of all these question marks now that, and we don't know about McCleary. We don't know Smith. We don't know the timescales. Are they a week? Are they two? Dak, was it just a few days? Like we don't know. So yeah, I'd like to think that we still have something in our armour to go tomorrow night to put a strongish team out, but not wreck us for this weekend.
Thank you. And we move on to the last topic. So no job for Old News. This is on the back of 2 ex-Gillingham managers losing their jobs in the week. John Coleman lost his job in Ireland, and Stephen Clements was part of Steve Bruce's backroom staff at Blackpool. So I will start with you, Harry, on this. Do us as Gills fans have an obsession with, so I'm laughing, old managers more than other clubs, or are we all the same? Because I've never known a club that if a manager gets sacked from us, that the fans almost follow their career and kind of either want them to do terribly, or it gives them a point if their manager ends up doing really well at another club.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? I think all fans kind of do it. I think Gillingham fans like to do it a lot. The John Coleman one really makes me giggle. He's managing off in Ireland and somehow we're still keeping track of him. And then Stephen Clements, yeah, I mean, yeah, it is funny. I think Gillingham fans, we like that drama. And then usually somehow these managers come back and manage us again at some point. So maybe we keep track on them to see when they're available.
And James, over to you. Is management just becoming an impossible task for people at the moment? Because you hear pundits say managers need 2, 3, 4 windows to get what they want. But unless you're at an elite club, you just don't seem to get that.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it comes from this director of football stuff that seems to come in from football clubs now. And you seem to have either ex-pros or even ex-managers step up into this director of football sort of position and end up them recruiting and this head of recruitment stuff and whatever else is just it's just rubbish. Like I just don't understand why the game has gone that way. I was speaking to Joe Compa the other week actually, and Joe said that unlike previous managers, Gareth is very, very much involved in the recruitment on Gills. He is apparently in every single recruitment meeting, every single one. He wants to know what's going on, what players we're looking at, what's this, what's that. He wants to know all the time. Unlike previous managers, that wasn't the case. And I think for me, to be honest, managers I think managers are making it a thankless task for themselves. Some of them, I think, some of them are almost allowing directors of football and head of recruitments to do all of their legwork for them, and so then when the team ends up failing, well, it's on you because you've had no say over the players that have come in. You've not even tried, and lo and behold, 3 or 4 months down the road, it's all gone down the pan because a side's been built for you that you didn't want. So, I think some managers don't help themselves.
And Tom, we haven't mentioned Mark Bonner on here for a few weeks, so I thought I'd mention Mark Bonner.
I did it a minute ago, didn't I, without even thinking about it.
So on the back of that, just because of his managerial style, and obviously Stephen Clements is new to it, a bit on what James has just said there, do you think the way they're taught now, because it's very classroom based, do you think that's a good thing for new managers, or do you think it's better to just be chucked in a bit very much an old school way where you just get given a job and you get on with it, you buy who you want and it all falls on you? But the way football is now, it's kind of, again, like James said, directors of football, they don't need to pick who they want to bring in nowadays, these new style managers.
I think just on a side note, I saw the Blackpool release of the news about Steve Bruce. And Steve Bruce left, Steve Agnew's assistant left, Steve Clements left, Steve Dobby and Steve Banks are taken over at Blackpool. Like, there's so many Steves, it's incredible. I thought it was a joke at first, but it's not.
Makes the tracksuit tops easier, doesn't it?
Yeah. I think, I mean, the model of football now is very much there's a head coach, which is becoming more prominent, isn't it? Then I think that's also redefined what the top man does. The man in charge of the team is the head coach, but you've got loads of people above him, director of football operations, all that sort of stuff that kind of have an input. And the job of the manager is kind of muddled a little bit now. It's actually, what does the manager / head coach do? Does the manager and the head coach have different roles? Because the head coach seemingly is the one to... Wasn't Clements our head coach, but not manager in terms of the job title? So what makes his job day-to-day different to Gareth Ainsworth, who is manager? I think we make it too complicated as a sport now to try to redefine what they do. But I think managers need to have the overall input. Yes, you've got scouts, you've got recruitment analysts, you've got video analysts, all that sort of stuff that goes on behind the scenes. But the manager needs to motivate and manage that person day to day when they're in the club. It's all well and good looking at what they do before that they get to you and they're a viable option for you to sign in January or in the summer. But that person's got to manage them day to day. And ultimately, if you're being relinquished of some of that responsibility because there's other people involved, it just takes away from what you're meant to do. And I think managers have got a hard task these days anyway, with the scrutiny from us fans. Social media is just relentless on managers now. So put that alongside diminished responsibility within the club, it's a really hard job. And we look at managers and go based on style of play and record and whether we like them or not. And ultimately, in a few years' time, maybe Gareth Ainsworth will be part of that. He'll be another one that we look at and go, oh, some of us didn't like him, or he turned out bad in the end, or whatever. And then we go round and round in circles. But managers and the merry-go-round with managers now is like, oh, you lose a job, but you could be in a new job like Ange or Nuno was last week. It's constant. So it's a thankless task now, I think, being a manager / head coach. Really is.
Cheers, boys. We will move on to the opposition facts. Well, we got a message from Sarah. See, Neil Harris was a naughty boy at the weekend whilst talking about ex-managers. See, it's impossible to get away from him. Wait till Cambridge come down the Priestfield. So, right, we will move on to the game and start with the opposition facts. So, MK Dons were founded in 2024. They emerged after the relocation of Wimbledon. A key milestone was reaching the championship in 2015, and Dele Alli today is their most successful former player.
They did well get into the championship 9 years before they were born.
On to the lineup. So we lined up with Glenn Morris in goal. We had a back three of Sam Gale, Andy Smith, Shad Ogie. We had Aaron Rowe and Romeo Hutton at wing backs. Centre midfield, we had Ethan Coleman and Robbie McKenzie. Had Johnny Williams in the 10. And up front, we had Josh Andrews and Elliot Nevitt. This is probably going to take up a bulk of the rest of the show, I would say, the lineup. So, Harry, you were at the game. First of all, talk through, obviously, your reaction to the lineups. And do you think the Rowe Ogie part of the formation was purely down to potentially Mendes Lang and his pace, that they wanted a bit of pace down the wing?
Yeah, maybe. It didn't work out. I think in hindsight, it didn't work out. I think Max Clark will feel a little bit miffed as to why he wasn't in that lineup. I think personally, when we looked at the game, Glenn Morris, he had such a bad game passing, but was that because of the options that were around him? Was Ogie just not in the right position? Was Rowe hampered by the fact that he couldn't run forward because he always felt like he had to come back? It just seemed very much that the team didn't know what they was doing down that side of the pitch, and it really affected us, and we looked lost in that first half. We really did, and that first portion of the first half, the boys did not know what they were doing. They didn't know who to pass to. They were looking around for options, and yeah, we got the lineup wrong. I think in hindsight, the lineup was completely wrong. There should have been some changes in there. And yeah, I mean, you look at it and you go, oh, we need to sort of counteract with pace. But when you don't leave us any options to go forward, that's when you're going to really sort of struggle. If you're too defensive minded, well, what ends up happening, you just end up booting the ball up and seeing if something happens. And it just didn't. It didn't happen.
And Tom, same question to you. When you saw the lineups come out, is this the way you thought they were going to line up, or did you picture them lining up slightly different?
I think realistically, if you'd had Ogie at left back in the 4, it still would have been a similar result. I think, Harry makes a good point with Nemain on the right hand side. You either put in a defensive player to kind of counter that attacking threat, or you put in a winger who can hopefully drag Nemain back and he can defend for the game rather than us being on the defensive side ourselves. But if you then put Ogie in at left back in a 4, you've left two perfectly good left back options on the bench anyway, and then you've got Rowe on one wing and you've not got a winger on the other side. So either way, it would have been lopsided. It wouldn't have been balanced. I am surprised that we did throw not Ogie in per se, but Ogie and Rowe in, because I think it left that left side looking very, suspect. And again, Rowe, I don't blame him. I feel that he wasn't the right option for that. I think Rowe is very much an impact player that can come off the bench and either on either wing or with the number 10 role can impact it. But there's better options in that left fullback role, that left wing back role, which I'm surprised we didn't use. I don't see an issue with Max Clark, especially, who's been quite decent, this season so far. So yeah, a strange one. I maybe even would have made a half-time switch if we felt that Rowe wasn't working out there, and Clark could have easily come in and filled that. And yeah, I don't get it. I mean, the rest of it sort of picked itself a little bit. I wouldn't have had an issue with the rest of it, but I think that left-hand side, and ultimately 3 goals came down that side, whether or not they were in, direct response to those 3 making mistakes or not. But I just think it's proven that sometimes us fans go a little bit, heavy on formation and stuff, but it seemed to be justified with this selection and how the game turned out.
And James, finally with you, it happened a few times last year. We dabbled with Jack Nolan at wing back. Asher Agbenone played wing back. What message does this send to Lenny Serino and Max Clark that in a big away game that they don't think that the club don't think that they're the right fit to play in their preferred position?
Not a great one. Not a great one at all. Baffled, absolutely baffled with what our thinking was behind it. I presume our thinking was behind it to have Rowe and Oji deal with Mendes Lang down that side and to try and basically nullify the pace to do it. But I don't get it. All our chat, even our pre-match chat from Dobbo is, yeah, MK Dons are a good side, but it's all about us and it's all about our strengths and things like that. And this is where it struggled with me on Saturday. It felt like we'd almost picked a side to try and nullify them and to not to actually get them to worry about us instead. And for me, their results, they've won 4 games all season. They've won 1 home game all season. To go into the attitude with trying to nullify them was just ridiculous because they've not been good enough for us to even nullify them. Max Clark has been good enough. Serino has showed in the big home game at Chesterfield where he come up against, I can't remember their winger. I can't remember the winger's name, the Chesterfield winger's name, but he's nullified. He nullified a big side that night where they were in good form. I'm not sure why we couldn't have gone with Nevitt out on the left and Rowe out on the right in a 4-3-3 because we've put Nevitt out on the left before, and his work rate justifies him playing out wide. So yeah, it was on the management on Saturday. They got it wrong, big time.
Okay, right. We'll move on to the game itself. So, Tom, I'll start with you. James picked up on the fact that MK Dons' home form hasn't been great, and obviously before this game we hadn't lost an away game. Why recently have we been starting so slowly in games and conceding early? Is it the young defence in your eyes, or was it just a bit of naivety from us and we turned up to a game thinking, well, they're not very good at home, we're good away, we're just find a way?
I think maybe a bit of naivety. I think teams are going to come to us now. We had a well publicised record, didn't we? The unbeaten record. The whole country knew about it, and teams can come and play against us. They can dig in for an hour or so or 90 minutes and try and get a draw, or they can come at us and they can try and unsettle us. And Bromley did that very well. Newport did that for a little while, and then obviously MK Dons did that as well. Harry got different story, I think, when they're away from home, but we've been to 3 away games recently. 3 out of the last 5 games they've scored in the first 10 minutes. So that shows actually teams are looking at us going, you know what, there's a little bit of a naivety there in defence. I don't think they're picking anyone out in particular, but whether we play a 5 or a 4, teams are coming to play us now, and they're going at us from the start, and they're going, you know what, this team is shipping goals despite being good recently, and ultimately our best chance might be to hit them early on and then make them come at us. So that's what I think MK Dons did. Realistically, they were threatening from the start. Yeah, it took a while for them to get the second and third goals, but by then we were already chasing the game anyway. So I think teams have cottoned on to what we're about. We are a strong team in the second half of games, so they want to get ahead first of all, and that's what they've done recently, and they want to get a good head start. So we need to be aware of that. We need to be prepared for teams to sort of come on the onslaught and on the attack for us, and start off solid. Don't do anything rash, and then pick up as it goes on. But the more we carry on letting the early goals, the harder it's going to be to try and get back in the games.
And Harry, as I mentioned earlier, obviously you were at the game. Just want to talk a little bit about the support. what was the atmosphere like when obviously the goals were going in? Because I think at the moment, a lot of the Gills fans and their reactions, especially on social media, are sometimes a little bit quick to react. I think over the last 3-4 seasons, it's probably justified that we do panic, that we know potentially what the majority of this squad have got in them from previous seasons, that they can put in a performance like the first 60, 70 minutes on Saturday. What was the response like in the crowd? Did you hear any booing? Was there any people getting on players' backs?
Yeah, there was. There definitely was. I mean, before the game, the crowd were buzzing. We had a really good turnout, and everyone was really up for it. And of course, that initial goal sort of takes the wind out of us. I was at the Newport game as well. It was a similar thing. I think then the crowd were brought up by the fact that Newport missed that penalty, and that really brought the crowd back into it. I felt like, I mean, the stadium really didn't help with this anyway. It just felt really quiet. You could hear the players sort of shouting at each other. And then, yeah, I hate it. I hate the fact we've been on this amazing run, and then there's a couple of games, and then suddenly every player in the team is getting shouted at like they don't know what they're doing. And it's a tricky one to hear. We've got to be able to back these players. We can clearly see that they're, as a group, they can get results. It's tricky though when you see these passes going astray, and you know as a fan you think what on earth are you doing passing it to that person? Why have you made that mistake? But yeah, there was some negativity in the crowd, and unfortunately, the boys didn't really help that in the fact that we weren't really putting anything together. I think if you get a goal back, the crowd then suddenly gets up for it, and we saw that unfortunately when we were 3-0 down, the crowd really got behind us. And I think the fact that the crowd then got into it after we was 3-1, probably shows the fact that there were people in that crowd that know that we could come back. I mean, we didn't, but there was a bit of hope at that point. But yeah, I mean, the players have to put a performance in to get the crowd going. It's sort of a mutual thing, really.
Okay, James, and I've got a couple for you. So the last half an hour, obviously, Gills made multiple changes, which seemed to make an impact, whether that was we played better, whether that was a team that hadn't won at home for a while, kind of sat back, and we managed to take advantage of that. Why does this squad's substitutions seem to make a bit more of an impact? Because I remember going back last season, and especially the season before, subs would come on and you'd actually forget that they'd even happened. So what is it about this bunch of players that you can actually see that impact that when they come on?
I think it's the depth and strength that we've got in the squad. I think recent years we were struggling so much that we were filling the squad with virtually kids and 17, 18-year-olds were having to come on and try and rescue games for us and things like that. And it's not fair on them. Ultimately, I think we're in a different position now where Gareth can, if he fancies bringing on a kid at Oldham away, then he probably can he can do it because he wants to do it, not because he's forced to do it. And you look at the quality that we're bringing on just Saturday, where we're bringing on Lenny Serino, Sam Vokes, Seb Hummelden, and that's with Armani Little, Bradley Datt, Connor Masterson, all sat in the stands. Johnny Smith. So the strength and depth we've got in that squad now is untold. It's really good, and that's credit to the recruitment team and Gareth and the management team, because I feel once we hopefully get over these injury problems, we're going to be in a much better position again. Because anyone that's missing the quality of Dak, Armani Little, Masterson, Johnny Smith, McCleary, any side in this league would really struggle with those players not in the team.
And just another one. Actually, I'll go to you all on this one. I can see on social media that Andy Smith's taken a lot of stick recently. He's had a few indifferent performances. I think Bromley away was not very good, but then I think he backed that up the next game with almost, I think, a man of the match performance. Are we at that point now where we're kind of expecting a lot from him, age-wise? And do you think maybe now that Shad's back, that we should potentially maybe take him out the firing line? Or do you think that this is good for him and his career? I'll come to you, Harry.
Yeah, I like Andy Smith. I think he's a good player. I think his potential is clear there. He has matches where he's going to be performing better and matches that he's not. I think the struggle with us as a team, we've probably got one of the youngest defences in the league. And, you know, when you don't have that voice there, it can sometimes be a bit tricky. Glenn's not the loudest voice from a keeper either. So if a mistake happens, you do see heads going down, and that can affect a player like Andy Smith. But I think we stick with him. I really do. I've seen great things from him, and I think a little bit of backing, a little bit of support from management and the team. I think he's going to be a great defender for us going forward.
And Tom, kind of same question to you, but I'm going to bring up my mate Elliot Nevitt in this question. I thought you're the person to answer this one for me. Is it good, the fact that fans do see the potential in Andy Smith, and the fact that if he does drop off, they're quick to pick him out because they know what he can do? But then you look at Elliot Nevitt, who's a centre forward that doesn't score goals but runs around a lot, and the fans seem to love that. And like, what's the difference between the two here?
I think it depends where you look on Facebook. There's the anti-Nevitt campaign a lot of the time. The thing with Andy Smith, right, you know, he's not been our player for long, but he's set very high standards. And alongside Sam Gale has been easily one of our best players in the last sort of, you know, few months or so. So Smith kind of, when he makes a mistake, it's more noticeable. And, you know, he's not made many individual errors. He's just been, I think, collectively, that there's been some quite rocky defensive moments across that back line. But I agree with Harry. I don't think dropping him, you know, is the right way to go, because it will be dropping him effectively for Shadogi, who himself is prone to a mistake or two. So I don't think it will be like you've got somebody more reliable waiting in the wings. I think Smith himself is very reliable. Nevitt, the debate goes on. Ultimately, a striker that doesn't score goals relatively regularly at all is always going to be up for, you know, criticism. And I'm old enough, and I'm sure you are too, Dave, to go back to get to the Gay Monaghan eras, where Monaghan was a workhorse. He battled, he ran around a lot, but he needed somebody alongside him because he was not going to score enough goals. I really liked him. I liked that kind of ethic of a dual player who was going to put himself about and give a lot to the team without, you know, scoring chances. The game's moved on since then. Strikers need to score goals no matter what sort of striker they are, and unfortunately he's not doing that, and looks like he is bereft of any confidence, and ultimately those two together means that he's under criticism. We do have, unlike with Smith and I think Ogie, I think we do have strikers like Vokes and Seb that are waiting in the wings now to pounce on that kind of opportunity, and you kind of get the impression that Seb might be more adept at scoring if he gets a chance than Nevitt is right now. So I want Nevitt to succeed. I think we all do, but I think right now there is the scope maybe for somebody else to try and take up the mantle and see what they do.
And finally, with you, James, two for you. Do you think we will ever see Seb Palmer-Holden and Sam Vokes start a game together? And on the back of the Andy Smith question, is there anyone in the squad? Obviously, it can be Andy Smith if you think it is. That is, in your opinion, looking like they might need to just come out and have a rest.
Yeah, I don't know about Andy. I think sometimes you've got to be careful when a relatively new player comes into the side that you don't immediately kill his confidence. And also we haven't got anyone else. So that's the other thing to it, is that we can sit here and try and pull him out and things like that. But okay, you can put Robbie McKenzie in there, but then that really doesn't help our centre midfield at the moment. So yeah, it's a catch-22 in that side of it. And the Elliot Nevitt argument as well is that the question poses with Elliot is that, would it look as bad if Josh Andrews was banging in goals every week? I don't know. So, I mean, with For me, Elliot Nevitt come to this football club as a goal scorer, and that's the problem. He was the man to basically fix the problems, and so he come with the high reputation of he's going to be a goal scorer. He's going to be a goal scorer. I'll tell you now, that is an absolute fluke of a season at Crewe. He's not a goal scorer. There is no way in hell that man has got a consistent goal scoring record in his armory. It just isn't there, which is fine. Like, that is absolutely what he does for the team off the ball is absolutely brilliant. Hence why I made the argument earlier that we could have played Nevitt out wide on Saturday because of what he gives the team. I think it looks worse because he's playing up alongside Andrews, and them two together, just for me, when you've not got a contribution from midfield, doesn't work. It doesn't work. Like Saturday, we are playing two holding midfielders and Johnny Williams, where yes, Johnny scored on Saturday, but doesn't usually deliver in front of goal. And so when you then not got the options of the wingers out wide that we have had in previous weeks, Andrews and Nevitt are not going to give you anything up front. So I don't know. I think Seb, for me, has to start this week. He has to come into the team. Vokes is a difficult one. It's a difficult question to pose because how fit really is he? Is it a classic case of can he only do half an hour, or has he got an hour in him? Because if he's got an hour in him, I'd 100% go him and Palmer Holden, like 100%, and go for it and see what they can do. Them two made such an impact on Saturday. So my question from the management to Vokes would be, if you can do an hour, yeah, I'd give them two an hour on Saturday and see what happens.
We were having a chat on our WhatsApp group regarding this, and if you were losing with half an hour to go, I think it might have even been you, Tom, actually. If we were losing with half an hour to go, who would you rather bring off the bench, Sam Vokes or Elliot Nevitt?
That's the thing.
And it might go to the reason as to why Nevitt starts and why Vokes comes on, because I don't know if you would get that impact from Nevitt from the bench.
But I also think that in time, I'm not saying drop him, but if you were to bring on Josh Andrews as half hour to go, that would be chaos. I think it was, I can't remember, was it against Wimbledon in the Cup?
Yeah.
He came on and changed the game. And ultimately, yes, I still want to start him, but I think Josh Andrews or Sam Vokes from the bench changes your game for you more often than not.
Right, we will move on to Phil's faults.
I don't really like coming to the town of Milton Keynes, and today gave me another reason. Unfortunately, we weren't great in the first half, but in the second half, we made a fight back, and that was good to see. 2 great goals. Sam Gale was great. So, I'm going home not terribly disappointed, but we could have done with those 3 points. It was a lovely touch right at the end when they put on the shirt that said, "Get well soon, Gaffer," and we all endorsed that message. And there's one other message that we all endorse. Up the Gills.
Right, we will move on to our man of the matches. And Harry, you've gone for Sam Gale. Please explain.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one going for a player that scored an own goal, but Sam always impresses me every game. I think he had a lot to do in that first half in particular, with players just running at him, and through no fault of his own, but other players sort of just giving them the ball and then them running. There was one tackle in particular, I think it was off Mendes Lang in the box, where he took the ball and he sort of went with it. I just felt at times Sam was the only one actually running at their defence. There was a few times he picks up the ball and sort of runs in and creates something. Oh, I was thinking maybe Johnny Williams for man of the match, but I couldn't give it to him because I just felt there was too many mistakes. So Sam just about tipped it, albeit it wasn't the easiest one to pick this week.
James, you went for Lenny Serino. He only played for half an hour. It kind of pretty much probably sums up the overall performance. Please explain.
Yeah, Yeah, it does. It does. I thought for half an hour we actually turned up, and so I think for the first hour of the game, I thought it was probably our worst hour of the season. To be quite frank, we couldn't even pass the ball, and I just thought for the last half an hour everything started through him. He tried everything. He was winning tackles. He was starting attacks off. He was moving the ball. He was delivering crosses. He was winning fouls. He just looked like he wanted to get us going, and he wanted to start making things happen. And it's every time with Lenny. Every time he either starts for us or he comes on the pitch, he makes something happen. And he looks, because he is so small, he looks like he's just going to be so easy to defend against, but you can't stop him. So I just thought Freeze, his heart and desire and his willingness to try and get us back in the game, I thought he deserved it Saturday.
Do you think the club need to exercise the because he's got a short-term contract, which I presume is January? Do you think the club need to look at that now, or do you think they're just going to wait?
Yeah, 100%, because I think teams certainly lower down in the table than us, I think Lenny would probably be their starting fullback every week. So I think we need to sort of snap it up on a longer term, even if it's a year. I'm sure we can afford a year. And I think, I know Shad or Aaron Rowe got put left wing back Saturday. But I think him and Max Clark are great fullback options for this football club for sure. Yeah.
And Tom, you also went for Sam Gale.
I did, yeah. Same as Harry, really, to be fair. I think, when the midfield is a little bit lacking in terms of pushing forward, and, Sam Gale does that for us. He does like to venture forward and put in a really good cross-field ball for the second goal, which a lot of people haven't really picked up on. That counts as a decent assist. Defensively, yeah, I know a couple of times he was faced up with Mendes Lang one-on-one and put him in his place. He doesn't shy away from those sort of one-on-one battles. He's got the pace to recover. So, yeah, I think in a defensively suspect display overall, Gale was the best player out of that lot for us.
And then my one, I've gone for Seb Palmer-Holden, another person that only played for half an hour, but for me showed me what I want to see from a centre forward. I noticed an easy goal. Some people said it just hit him, but he was there. And I think there's no guarantees with Seb that he's going to be our 10, 15, 20 goal a season, but I think he is now earned his go. Whether it works or not is obviously it's yet to be seen, but others ahead of him have had their go, and I think it's time now that we give Seb a run, and hopefully they don't put him in the lineup tomorrow and something goes wrong, but hopefully come Saturday against Cheltenham, he's in the starting 11. And talking of Cheltenham, we will look ahead to this weekend. So last 5 for the Gills are drawn, 1, lost, and Cheltenham have 1, lost, 1, and recently changed their manager. So, Tom, what do you think is going to happen this weekend? And as we're talking about forwards, obviously Josh Andrews is suspended. How would you line up at the weekend? Would you go for a 2 up front, or would you go 1 up front with 2 wingers? And if so, what would your front 2/3 look like?
First thing is first, is going to be a very different Cheltenham to one we would have seen a fortnight ago. Steve Cottrell back in the job now. I think they'll come and get a draw by any means possible. They'll do a Harrogate. Obviously they won, but they'll come for a draw and they'll throw 10 men in front of the ball. I would personally stick with the back 4. I don't think you need to change too much from that back 4 with Hutton, Smith, Gale, and Clark. I would still persist with the front 2. I think Seb alongside Josh Andrews. No, that's not right, is it? Because he's out. Ignore me for that one. I would go Seb alongside Nevitt. I think Nevitt could be the workhorse and Seb could be the one to sort of finish. The rest of the squad will depend on injuries. It will depend on Johnny Smith. It will depend on Dak and all that sort of stuff. So you can't really pick them yet. I wouldn't deviate from the formation that's been working. I think we tried that on Saturday and it didn't pan out very well. But we've got to be patient because Cheltenham will come to settle for a draw instantly. I think they'll still see us as a threat to them. So we've got to be patient. We've got to be persistent. We've got to use the subs well again, use the wide areas, and maybe we might have to play a little bit dirty to get 3 points.
And Harry, how important is it that by any means possible the Gills get back on the horse and get a victory on Saturday?
So important. We literally couldn't have picked a better game to try to get back on it. The Cheltenham team have looked absolutely terrible this season, but just our luck, they seem to have just turned it around at the weekend and got a 2-0 win against Fleetwood. It's just our luck, really. I do think we play 75%, we still win this game. We're talking about a Cheltenham team that did lose 7-1 to Grimsby and absolutely press the self-destruct button in that game. We need to throw men forward, show our attacking prowess, not sit back like we've done in the last couple of games and really go for this game and try to get an impressive scoreline against them. And if we do that, all the fans will be back on it and we'll be talking about automatic promotion again.
And James, talking of fans, how important are we going to be at the weekend? Obviously, we have been conceding a lot of early goals recently. So if it happens again, how important are we to not get on the players' back and just ensure that we support them as best we can?
Yeah, huge. I think obviously we've put up with a lot of pretty dire football over the last few years, haven't we? But I think one thing is for sure with us Gills fans is that yes, we are quick to jump to sort of conclusions and opinions on social media, but generally in the stands, it takes us a long time to lose our patience. And then once we do lose our patience, then we obviously just do lose it and you don't get it back. That's the thing with us. So I think, of course, we've got to stick with the players. I think the fans have got to remember we've not suddenly become a bad team overnight. We've lost a couple of games. We were really unlucky in that Harrogate game to not score in that second half. Had we not made a cock up of the tactics on Saturday, I think we'd have got something out of that. And then prior to that, we were unbeaten for 21 games. So we've not become a bad team overnight. We certainly aren't a bad team. And I actually do fancy us this weekend. I fancy us to get back to winning ways. We're back at Priestfield, back at our home ground. And if we can certainly get even a couple of bodies from the injury list back amongst us and back in the squad, then I think it will give us a sort of a bit of a motivational tool to get us going again.
Excellent. And we will now move on to the Views 6, where we really need to buck our ideas up. So last week we took on Cliff. As you can see, the results below were Barnet 2, Accrington 0, Cambridge 3, Crawley 1, Salford 0, Grimsby 2, Walsall 2, Bristol Rovers 1, Barrow 0, Shrewsbury 0, and MK Dons 3, Gillingham 2. To which we scored 4 points. Cliff scored 9, which means that myself, Chris, and Warren are on 57 points, and the guests are on 69 points. So this week we are taking on James. So fixtures this week are Crewe versus Bromley, Fleetwood versus Harrogate, Gills Cheltenham, Swindon Notts County, Accrington Newport, Chesterfield Salford. As you can tell by our prediction for the Gills game, we all know that Warren predicted the Gills score this week, as he actually gave Gills a goal, but he always normally predicts the Gills to lose 2-0. So James, how did you go about predicting yours? Was there any method to it, or was it just
no, not really. I just think obviously Crewe and Bromley are pretty much there and thereabouts, sort of in and around the same position in the table. I know Harrogate beat us the other week, but I quite like Fleetwood and fancy them at home. Again with us, I fancy. I think it might be the classic case on Saturday that it takes us a little while to get over the line, but eventually we get there. I don't think we're going to go and blow Cheltenham away. And like Tom said, they're going to have a new manager bounce with Steve Cottrell coming in. Swindon are flying and Notts County are sort of, it seems like they want their board and manager sacked every bloody week at the moment with County and Swindon are flying. Unfortunately, Newport are in terrible position sort of off the pitch, and Accrington are good at what they do, and then Chesterfield seem to have sort of slumped all the way down since being beat by us. Salford are what they are. They're nothing special, but I think they might nick it at Chesterfield. So that's my thoughts behind it.
Perfect. So fingers crossed you don't have a good week, because we really need it. So we will move on to our sponsors again. So as you know, we are sponsored by Snodhurst Used Cars Service Station and Wicked Creative. And talking of Wicked Creative, lady that owns Wicked Creative, D, is starting something on social media. I don't know if you've seen it, about taking blue hearts to the game on Saturday to raise up for Gareth when we're singing the last waltz at the start of the game. If you don't follow D, her Twitter handle is in our bio, so you can go and see. She's created a poster. We'll be sharing it on our socials to get it going. So feel free to join in, bring a blue heart and lift it above your head when the last waltz is playing. And we're also supported by Sports Social Podcast Network, Her Game 2 and Gillingham FC Supporters Club. And if you don't already, why aren't you? Please go on Facebook and like The View from the Medway. On X, we are The View from the Medway Fancast, or at TVFTM. And we're also on YouTube, The View from the Medway Fancast. And that is bringing the end to a show. But first of all, Harry, you're part of the Fourth Tier Fever. Did you want to give it a little shout out and explain what you guys do on there?
Yeah, so we do a podcast that focuses on all the League Two games. We do 2 podcasts a week. We do a preview and a review show. The review show goes out on usually a Monday and the preview around a Thursday. We focus on all the games. We have different opinions from all over the league. So if you want to sort of get a bit of a flavour of what the other teams are doing and what everyone else is thinking in the league, it's always a good one to drop into. We've got lots of different hosts. It's not just me talking on there all the time. So you don't have to listen to me drone on. Give us a check out. Fourth Tier Fever. Find us on all the socials and YouTube and Spotify and all the good stuff.
Perfect. And James and Tom, what have you boys got coming up on ME7?
Yeah, as always, just doing our post-match podcast, which is popular. Massive thank you to Tom for this season for stepping in and certainly helping us with busy lives and things like that. We're looking eventually, now everything's settled down in private life. We're looking at bringing back our month. We used to do something called the Coffee Catch Up, which was like a monthly show that we used to do, and we used to do it from Priestfield, but we're going to find a different location for it. So we're going to do that at some point and start doing that. So lots to look forward to, just also obviously follow us at the ME7 podcast for things coming up.
Perfect. And thank you all for your time this evening. You know where to come. 8 o'clock next Monday, we will be on reviewing the Cheltenham game. And as always, up the Jewels.